We are working on Chapter 2, Lesson 1, page 35, Interpret Rational Numbers. So number 1 asks us to graph 1.7, -3/10, and 5/10, and their opposites on the number line. So we want to start off by graphing the 1 and 7/10. So I know that'll be between the two integers 1 and 2. And my first step is to determine what the number line tick marks are counting by. So between 1 and 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tick marks, which means each one is counting by 2/10. So each tick mark is 2/10. So this is 1.0, this would be 1.2, 1.4, 1.6, 1.8, then 2.0. So 1.7, this is 1.2, 1.4, 1.6 is here, 1.8 is here. So 1.7 would be right in the middle, 1 and 7/10. Okay, and then we are asked to graph its opposite. So we know that the opposite is the same distance from 0 on the number line. Okay, so we'll want to go over here. This is 1.5 tick marks to the left of 2. This will be 1.5 tick marks to the right of 2. And we label it -1 and 7/10. Then we need to graph -3/10. So here's 0, -2/10 will be here, -4/10 will be here, so -3/10 would be right in the middle. And the opposite of that would be +3/10. So again, this is 1.5 units left of 0 for -3/10. So +3/10 would be 1.5 tick marks to the right of 0. And the next number is half. So we have 0 and 5/10. So this is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6. So 0.5 would be halfway between 0.4 and 0.6. -0.5 would be halfway between -0.4 and -0.6. So we graphed each of those three numbers and their opposites on the number line. Number 2, a marine biologist collects coral species from the bottom of a coral reef. The biologist swims to depths of 3 1/4 meters, 2 5/8 meters, and 4 1/2 meters below sea level. And it's important to note that it is below sea level. Part A asks us to represent these depths as rational numbers. So we know they are below sea level, so we want to go ahead and write these as negative and rational numbers. So 3 1/4 meters below sea level will be written as -3 1/4. 2 5/8 meters below sea level will be written as -2 5/8. And 4 1/2 meters below sea level will be written as -4 1/2. So we have these each written as rational numbers. Part B asks us to graph and label. So graph will put the point where it belongs. Label means put the number, so which of those three. And, so label the depths and their opposites. So we'll do each of these three numbers, and we will also graph and label their opposites on the number line over here to the right. So we see the scuba diver. So let's take a look at our graph and see what they're counting by first. So here I have 0 and 1. So I'm going to look at the distance between 0 and 1. How many tick marks do I have? It's starting at 0. We don't count that one. That's our starting point. 1, 2, 3, 4 tick marks. So that means each tick mark is 1/4 or 0.25. Okay, so we're counting by 1/4. So -3 1/4 would be go down 1, 2, 3 1/4, plot a point, and label this -3 1/4. And we need to graph its opposite. So that will be the same distance from 0, but in the opposite direction. So +3, 1, 2, 3 1/4. 3 1/4. I'm going to erase that line because I don't want it to look like a negative. So 3 1/4. I'll just write it directly next to it. Okay, this one's a little trickier because it's -2 5/8. We have eighths, but we're counting by fourths. So we have to know that an eighth is a half of a fourth. 1/8 is half of a fourth. So that'll be a little trickier, but we will not have a problem doing this. So -2 and 5/8. So think of 4/8 would be half. That'd be -2.5. So 5/8 is halfway between the 1/2 and the next tick mark. Okay, so -2 and 5/8. Here's 0, -1, -2. So 4/8 would be half. Here's 2/4 or 4/8. 5/8 will be right in the middle there. Okay, so one half a step below. And this is -2 and 5/8. And then we want to graph its opposite. So that'll be 2 and 5/8, +2 and 5/8. So here's 0, 1, 2. Here's 2 1/4, 2 1/2. So 2 and 5/8 will be right here, 2 and 5/8. The next number we have is -4 and 1/2. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1/2 will be the same as 2/4. So -4 and 1/2. And then its opposite is +4 and 1/2. So from 0, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And up 2 more tick marks takes me to 4 and 1/2. Okay, so that was 2A and 2B. Number 3. Liquids freeze at different temperatures as shown in the table. Complete the table by finding the absolute value of each temperature. So 0 is its own, so 0 is 0 units away from itself on the number line. That is its number. So the absolute value of 0 degrees Celsius is just 0. How far away from 0 on the number line is 5.5? 5.5 units away. How far away salt water freezes at -1.85 degrees Celsius? So the absolute value of this is +1.85. And the absolute value of -2.2 degrees Celsius is 2.2. Okay, so Hector says that -3.8 degrees Celsius and +3.8 degrees Celsius are not the same in terms of their relationship with 0. Is he correct? So our textbook says no. So he is correct about the magnitude. I will say that. But our textbook answer is this. They say that no, he is not correct. They are the same distance from 0, but they are opposites. So let's write that down. -3.8 degrees Celsius and 3.8 degrees Celsius are the same distance from 0. But they are in opposite directions. But in opposite directions. Okay, so technically I would say yes, he is correct, because yes, they are the same distance from 0, but not in the same direction. So our textbook answer is this, but I would accept the answer yes, he is correct. They're not the same in terms of their relationship with 0, because even though they're the same distance from 0, they're in opposite directions. So I think there's a little lack of clarity in that question. With the way that they answered it. So I do think that he is correct, because yes, the same distance, but no, not the same direction. Okay. Number 5, a stock question. On Friday, the value of one stock changed by -$2.75, and the value of a second stock changed by $2.75. How can you use a number line to show these values are opposite? So we can graph the numbers on the number line and then compare their distances from 0. If their distances from 0 are the same, then they are opposite. So let's go ahead and write that down. I can graph the numbers on a number line. And then compare their distances from 0. If the distances are the same, they are opposite. And then the last part of the page, we have find the opposites and the absolute value of each number. So we want to list both of those items. The opposite of 3/10 is negative 3/10. The absolute value of 3/10 is 3/10. Okay, the opposite of negative 4 and 6/100 is positive 4 and 6/100. The absolute value of negative 4 and 6/100 is 4 and 6/100 because of how far away it is from 0. The opposite of negative 1 and 1/5 is 1 and 1/5. The absolute value of negative 1 and 1/5 is 1 and 1/5 because that's how far it is away from 0. The opposite of positive 2 and 19/100 is negative 2 and 19/100. The absolute value of 2 and 19/100, just how far away is it from 0? 2 and 19/100. Number 10, the opposite of 2.5 is negative 2.5. The absolute value of 2.5 is 2.5. So that's the distance from 0. The opposite of 75/100 is negative 75/100. And the absolute value, how far away it is from 0, is 75/100. And then I just like to double check these because you're doing two things for each question. So just double checking opposite. Okay, and then absolute value, just how far away is it from 0, disregarding the distance. Okay, it's always a good idea to check those, especially when you're switching back and forth between two things that are very similar, opposite and absolute value. And that was lesson 2.1, page 35, questions 1 through 11, interpreting rational numbers.